Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
Because you're going to be the one, Lord ass, that overcome. You know how many fucking times I've heard that? And you know how many times it's come to fruition? When Anelli said, when you cross the gate, the old man setting you up to shit yourself, he was telling you the exact fucking truth. Because he got it. And the odds and probabilities of Mr. Wonderful back here changing his ways are slim and none. One, because where he lives. And that's how you do business there. Some countries are slim and none because that's how you do business there. Mexico. The odds, without paying bribes and or getting killed, are pretty fucking low. Although we got a guy rolling up hospitals in Mexico. We got a guy rolling up, we cut up meat and shit, butcher, no. Slaughterhouses in Mexico. We've got a guy doing crematoriums in Mexico. But it's hard. He said sarcastically, I wish my Spanish was good enough to say it in Spanish. God, if I was only white and I could be living in Texas, I could do this a lot easier. And he's right. Every time he spins, he lives in Guadalajara. Every time he spins around, somebody wants money. You know? Yeah, exactly. For real, fuck you over. Yeah. And everybody's got a cousin that's not the sheriff, but a cop, a senior cop. And they call him uncle, So you want to come to the hardcore? Fine. If you don't, fuck you. I don't care. But for some of you, it would be good. For some of you, I could sit the next 2 years and sit in your lap, no sex, and help you, and you're not going to get it. Anelli had 19. Now, Anelli is 10 times the man or woman that anybody in this room. And he didn't pull the trigger on 19 deals. There's a new sense of silence in the room. Because I knew most of you haven't gotten it yet. Because you're not going to go home and you're not going to look at the fucking gig. Oh, and I got to schedule my day and this and that. I'm going to make phone calls and make that. I'm going to 900. You're not going to do that. And I'd be a disingenuous old fuck if I led you to believe you were. You're all going to suffer. Every motherfucker in this room is going to suffer. You're going to hurt. You're going to be sick to your stomach. I could have sold, these people didn't throw up, but they do. Unless you feel like a dwarf in your stomach walking in mud, you're not making progress. Some of you have already thought to hire somebody to do the calls. Do you think that's a new fucking idea? It doesn't work. It's like being called from a call center in Bangalore, India. How effective are those cold calls from a call center? Not too effective, right? You got to do it yourself. So that's my answer, whether you ought to come to the hardcore or not. Andreas didn't. All the rest did. And Andreas, you all think, well, fuck that little shithead. He's nothing. The little Nazi went to the hardcore, and pig fuckers coming to the hardcore. And we only have hardcore by serendipity. And you've heard this on YouTube. I'll say it again. Mr. Peña, do you realize it's Easter Sunday? No shit, yeah. You mean Good Friday was 2 days ago? Yeah. Fuck. And I said, what's the point? I asked the kid. And it came up, well, I wonder if you gave a seminar on Christmas. Because a lot of people don't like Christmas, which is true. Some of you in this room don't like Christmas. It's a waste of fucking time. And I announced a seminar. I didn't even know what we were going to do. 72 hours later, we had 200 plus people wanted to come to a seminar. We didn't know what the name of it was yet. But it was going to be over Christmas and New Year's. Now it's only over Christmas. Because most people like New Year's, even if they don't like Christmas. Now, anybody got a question about hardcore? Yes, sir. Andale, muchachos. Well, hardcore is that you got, no, I teach you how to get a dick hard on that big. Okay, yeah. No, hardcore is we do a MBA in 9 days. For those of you that have been to graduate school and got a graduate degree of some sort from a reasonable school, or even not a reasonable school, you go through between 30 and 40 cases in 2 years. And you take the case from the bottom to the top, and you dissect it. You split up the 30 to 40 cases amongst teams, between 4 and 6 guys and gals on a team, and you live those cases for 2 years. We do the same thing, except we do it in 9 days. We split up 32 to 35 cases. 4 or 5 of the cases are the, global cases that are really known, Nabisco, AOL, etc. Do a few of those, and then you bring 2 to 4 cases yourself. If you don't, and they're normally the cases that either got away from you, or you made an offer, couldn't close them, or I've seen in the newspaper, some of the kids go to the graduate schools, you buy them online, and we go through those cases in great detail. So all the nuances that you don't need to know, we teach. Because some of you need to know, spiritually you need to know, because you can't do it. Your DNA is so fucked up, you can't do it. And we go into the why and not just the how. Because some of you, because of the way you were trained, linearly or whatever, doctors, lawyers, I don't know about Mexican lawyers, but doctors, lawyers, accountants, scientists, you've been taught in a certain way. And you haven't been taught to geometrically going from A to D, going from C to Z. And that's why you have trouble with QLA. And that's why I say those professions that I mentioned, hookers have no problem. I mean, sincerely, and they call themselves escorts. The escort girls have no problem learning QLA. None. You're just jumping from one John's dick to the next. But you're going to think, well, maybe she's got AIDS, or maybe she's got this, or maybe she's got that. And is this condom really going to protect me? And if you think like that, and a lot of you do, even though you talk shit, in here talking shit doesn't mean a goddamn thing. And if you're honest with yourself, which you haven't been honest with yourself your whole life, so why are you going to start this week? Who are you kidding? And if you take your results, everybody in this room is fucked. Even the 2 or 3 of you got a few pennies. I pointed to the young girl. She is not going to be me in a million, she doesn't want to be me, but she's not going to be me in 1,000 million years. Not going to happen. Sleepyhead back here is not going to be Blondie, who thinks she's tougher than everybody else. In 1,000 million years, you're not me. There's an article in the Guardian newspaper today about Elon Musk is a dick. That's big words for an English newspaper. He's a dick. But the person that wrote the article, and so what? He's done this, he's done this, he's done this, but he's a dick. He screams at his employees, he makes them cry. His famous saying is, I could be lying on a beach in Central America or near Tahiti with naked girls sitting on my face, and instead I'm here with you cocksuckers at 3 o'clock in the morning because you can't do your job. You're not going to be Elon Musk either. Or Andrew Carnegie from last night, right? Okay. My virtual hero. And I'm not suggesting you hit your employees with cricket bats. I'm not suggesting any of that. But let's get fucking real. Yes, sir. Yeah, I know, but no, on a surface, you may think you don't need to know the why, but because of the way you've been trained, you're a lawyer, okay? I'm not going to hold that against you. And you're a Mexican lawyer. I'm not sure we've ever had a Mexican lawyer come through the program, but they're trained differently. They're trained differently. If you're an engineer, you're trained differently. You're more fucked. And if you have multiple degrees in engineering, you're just even more fucked. If you're a mathematician, you're fucked. If you have a PhD in math, which we had here a year or two ago, you're super fucked. Because there is no formula E equals MC squared for QLA. There's no answer. It's just a big fucking question mark. It's like E equals question mark, question mark. And I did not design the program that way on purpose. All I did was when I got thrown out of Great Western, which was, I won't say one of the saddest days of my life, but it was one of the strangest days of my life. I said, and a good friend of mine named Bud Grubbs, who's a Marine officer that I grew up with, and he said, well, why don't you teach? And then he said, why don't you coach? And, tell people how you did it. So then when I reverse engineered what I did, and that's why QLA is what it is, I reversed engineer. How can I start with no money, then go to a great school, blah, 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 and how I did it. And so that's what QLA is. Exact same thing. One or two of you went to all right schools, but most of you didn't go to school at all. Pig fucker didn't go to school. I think he might have got a job as a janitor. That's the closest he's going to get to a university. No, nothing disrespectful about janitors. I got a bunch of them in my family. So, illegal. And that's what you do. And not everybody, but 75 to 85% of the kids that come out of hardcore, the shoe dropped. I don't know. I told you about the guy that came 12 seminars in a row, came to the hardcore, and he's up there now. But he put he put rockets on asteroids and shit. Because when you really think about it, this program doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't. You will never find anybody that doesn't think you have to start with money. Nobody on the planet. You can search for the rest of your fucking lives. You're never going to find anybody that doesn't think that somebody's got to put up money. And for this program, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Theoretically, the last money you have to put up is to pay to come here. And if you spend more money, then you're a fucking fool. And some of you, I congratulate you, not just for going through quarantine, but for coming up with the money, I don't care where as long as you didn't kill somebody for the money. I don't even care that. I just don't want to know about it. So, enough about hardcore. And I'm not coming, there was a rumor about 2 months ago, one of these meatheads said that Dan was going to have a hardcore 2. And I actually got on the phone, made some phone calls, and told him that's a fucking lie. That's not happening. That is not happening. Huh? If you can't make it after hardcore, then we'll give you a razor blade that you can cut your throat on the way home. On the way home. And another rumor, I'm not giving this seminar outside these castle walls. The time I did it in January 2020, that was my sayonara song. I was going to quit. And then several things happened to make me change my mind. I don't change my mind easily, but I changed my mind. Okay, last night you saw my virtual mentor, Andrew Carnegie, and let me start by saying this before I ask for comments. All the good he's done, all the money he's given away, about 30 miles south of here, you can't hardly find anything that doesn't have his fucking name on it. He has never been awarded or knighted or given anything by the Queen, the government. Ask yourself why. And some real assholes have been knighted. Some real pricks have been given awards, but not to Mr. Carnegie. My award that I got from the Queen is more than he got in his whole lifetime, because he was one of the biggest fucking assholes. He ran to Europe when they were killing his employees at the steel factories. And that's why they say I can't meet, the guys say, not the guys the guys say, Danny, you're never going to make the big time because you won't kill babies and shit. which is true. And if that's the definition of making it to the big time, they eat babies in China. You know that? They eat fucking babies in China. I can eat animals live, but I couldn't eat a kid. I should have eaten all of you. When they pulled you out, instead of the umbilical cord, I should have just ripped your fucking throat out and let you die, bleed out. So when your mother's walking around with that big thing on you, you hanging from the umbilical cord. What about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
He had that pain from his family being poor, and he wanted to avenge them tremendously. Well, avenge the poorness and be very wealthy because of that.
And he was driven by his mother, who was a fucking psycho. She wanted to drive down the street in her carriage, look down everybody's nose. A lot of gals are like that, by the way. My mother wasn't a psycho, but she lived vicariously through my success. She lived vicariously. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
In almost every job that he had, he felt like it was his duty to improve it.
Just like you guys. I mean, it just sounds like you guys. You guys, most of you got psycho mothers, so right now you're 2 for 2. What else? People like that, and when I went to Skibo Castle for my birthday last year, in full disclosure, I was going to buy Skibo Castle 25 years ago. I thought it would be a great fit for the seminar, and then I owned Skibo Castle, but it needed at least 50 million pounds. And it looked good, but it needed 50 million pounds. Whereas I put in maybe 15 million pounds, it needed at least 3 times as much. And then a hedge fund guy bought it. And it has sucked between 2 and 5 million every year since he's owned it, 2002. It's like a Brooklyn deal. I mean, he's going to make it up in numbers. And so it's just ironic. The real irony is when you show the pictures of Skibo and the estate, and you look at the Guthrie and his estate. We're in better nick, as they say here in the UK. We're in better shape because this place is manicured for the most part, and there's other things. But the funny thing is that the doors aren't short because he was a short guy, but the door handles are short. So it's a regular door, but the door handle's down here. And the first few doors I walked through, I didn't really, because the doors were ajar, so I just pushed them. But then, when our suite, we stayed, that'd be perfect, perfecto. Yeah, and we stayed in his daughter's suite. And this is another strange thing. At the corner of the castle that overlooks the lock and the golf course is like here, and that's his suite is in the corner. There's a short hallway about 10 feet, and then his daughter's suite. What about his wife's suite? Where's his wife sleep? This is an exaggeration, you need a long-range bomber with refueling capability to get to her bedroom. You got to walk down this goddamn hall about 125 meters, and she's got a smaller suite at the other corner that's looking off, not into a garbage dump, but I mean, it's, he had one kid, a girl, a daughter, and there's no record in the Andrew Carnegie history and the historians of him ever meeting Napoleon Hill. No record. And supposedly Napoleon Hill met him on the weekend. Now, why would a 19-year-old young boy want to meet with a 65-year-old man over a 3-day weekend? Other than that. What? There's a thing on my website, and there's a bunch of stuff online, how Napoleon Hill was a fraud. He still wrote an iconic book. I don't believe he ever met Mr. Carnegie. That book is a figment of his imagination. Yet, for over 100 years, it's been one of the Bibles. And I told you that in the early 50s, W. Clement Stone called him. Now this, Napoleon Hill, bankrupt 3 times, abandoned his son because his son was born with no ears, and all kind of ugly shit that he did. And he was bankrupt, and W. Clement Stone, who was the founder and owner of Combined Insurance, an insurance peddler, one of the biggest insurance companies in America at that time, wanted a way to sell his new whole life product. He thought all his marketing guys were out of ideas. He calls him. He flew to Chicago, and I know this because I talked to W. Clement Stone myself on the phone, and then he up and fucking died on me, just like that Father Mateo that was going to do my exorcism. Anyway, and he called him, and he came to Chicago, and he spent a few days, and they're brainstorming, and we need something where there's no accountability, so nobody feels bad when they fail. What could we call it? Personal development. You can't nobody keeps themselves accountable. We'll call it personal development. And personal development was born in the early 50s. And for those of you that are devotees of other personal development, not other, but personal development guys, and that was born. And now, as they told me, it's a $1 billion business, $1 going around to 1 billion people, because it's very difficult. The only part of personal development that you can keep track of, you either gained 10 pounds or lost 5. But other than that, there's nothing, And when people say to me, when I used to get the reports from you, oh, I feel good about last week. Why, did somebody have 2 big fucking tits in your face? What do you mean you feel good about it? Or I'm working on it. Those are all personal development phrases. Barbara Streisand has been going to a psychiatrist for 60 years, 57 years. Woody Allen has been going to a psychiatrist, and they're working on it. It's a long-term program, I guess. Some of you have been working on yourselves. Exactly how do you do that? You jerk off, and then, one engineer once told me, Harvard engineer, I have my thumb up my ass, and I have this thumb in my mouth, and I go, I'm working on it. Some of you have been working on yourselves all your life, and most of you in this room should be working on something vis-a-vis the test scores. And those test scores, if you showed it to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, is that you would rather be liked than effective. That's the bottom line. And just as I said in 4 words, just fucking do it, instead of writing a book, it's just fucking do it. Because then there's no procrastination. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Now, I'd ask again, which I'm not going to ask, just ask yourself a rhetorical question. How many of his characteristics do you have? When we used to do this, it was a real hoot, because to hear the you justify how some, other than a couple of you are midgets, other than that, you've got nothing in common with Mr. Carnegie. Nothing. Some of you have left your partners in a lurch. You know how they say now, I've got your back? Isn't that how they say it? You guys don't know what that means. I've got your 6. Is that the same thing? Yeah, okay. But you hear it all the time. Now, these aren't Top Gun combat veterans. These are just mealy-mouthed little fuckers that went to some school or didn't go to some school. By the way, for the not my buddy, but Paul's younger brother beat up the martial arts guy last night on a split decision. And so I know the older loudmouth Logan Paul, and I know his dad. So I got up early to see what the results were. There is no, success leaves clues. A lot of the clues that Mr. Carnegie left aren't clues that are easily fathomable, because you don't want to do those things. You wouldn't mind being as rich as he was, but you don't want to pay the price to action. And so far, other than Ballmer, who is a beast himself, none of these guys are softies. And we could add gals in, but I mean, there's more beast guys than there are beast gals. You got, and to the best of my knowledge, the Chinese gal, a very wealthy woman, there are no YouTubes about them that are in English. They have YouTubes on them, but they're in Chinese, and other than maybe one or two people in the group could understand what the fuck they meant, so we don't use those. Anything else about Andrew Carnegie? But that's my hero. That's my hero. But I wouldn't have gone to fucking the UK when they were doing all that. I would have been in the front line with a baseball bat, caving in skulls. Okay, YouTube, thank you.